Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to Dumb SEO Questions, episode, let me see, it's 244, I think. Each week we meet here to answer the questions asked on the SEO Questions community on Google+, on the Facebook group, Dumb SEO Questions, and also on Twitter at Dumb SEO QS. With us tonight, we have David Rozam, an internet marketer living in the south of England. David has been an SEO copywriter for 30 odd years and an internet marketer for about 10 of those. You can find David at writingforseo.org. Masataki Wasa is webmaster of wasaweb.net. He's also a Google top contributor on the Google AdSense community, and you can find Masataki at wasaweb.net. Rob, who's just typing in the groups into the chat for me, thank you, Rob. Rob is an AdWords aficionado. He is based in the Netherlands. The first two guys are based in the UK. And Tim Capper is based in Corby, which some people think is part of the UK. But Rob is an AdWords aficionado. He runs a company, marketbiz.nl. It's spelled market.biz. No, market, no dot, bizz.nl. Tim Capper he is a conversion rate optimization specialist. He's proud to call himself an SEO. He's based in Corby, about 100 miles north of London. And, let's get into it. All right, our first is a question titled Website for Specific Locations. Let's see what that's about. I hope I can. Let me say. There we are. So Austin Paget, I'll just show the screen there. Austin Paget said, he said, so I have a friend who can translate and do all the video content, images, etc. for my website. Should I create a new website for specific locations, or should I use Ahreflang? Also, if I just translate, could there be duplicate content issues? Only if you use Google Translate.
Yes, I mean, so, if you wanted to create pages for those different languages, yeah, that's not a problem. And then obviously you use Ahreflang to set which, obviously, if it's the UK or US English, or if it's China or Germany. And yes, you can directly translate those pages. So directly translate your English version into German, and then the Ahreflang for that would indicate that this is the German page. And then translate it into French, the exact same content into French, and indicate with your Ahreflang that that is the French page. Yeah, no problem. And no, it's not duplicate content, because the Ahreflang is specifying that this is English, this is the French version, this is the Dutch version, this is the German version, and no, it's not duplicate content.
Thank you, Tim. Anybody else? For some reason, I had a bit of a brain snap there. I forgot to mention that Rob is a Google top contributor on the AdWords in the Dutch language, and also on Google Webmasters in the English language. And Tim Capper is also a Google top contributor on the Google My Business community. Right, let me tweet that, and let's move on to the next. Oh, it wants me to sign up. next time, Twitter. All right, let's go to the next one. This one is titled Local Business That Doesn't Have a Blog. It's from Jacob Payton. Jacob Payton, I was hoping was going to join us tonight. I sent him an invitation. Where are you, Jacob? Anyway, he said, what other types of links could I get for a local business that doesn't have a blog? I've already added their site consistently on 50 authoritative directories for local citations. Any ideas, my wonderful SEOs? That's his words, not mine.
Okay, so this is a local business. It doesn't have a blog on their site. So I'm assuming that they've got, I don't know what, service pages or you know, product pages. I mean, you kind of don't explain. Is it just one page, or do they have a few more pages? Well, you could, you know, what's the site built on? Why can't you create news? But not necessarily, you know, you don't always have to create a blog to create content. You could be creating content pages, you know, additional pages within the site. So, but that's, I'm assuming, if you can or can't. You know, content can be anything, so it doesn't have to be on a blog. It could be anything. I see Rob just put in the message here, you know, calculators, tables, lists. The thing is to become, if you're in a local setting, which you obviously are, you want to provide the best possible resource to users within that area. So, God, I don't know. I don't know what you are. So, for example, let's say you're a barbershop. Now, you'd think, okay, great. Well, geez, what can I do with a barbershop? Well, you know, it really is just a question of thinking about things. You know, could you get a web developer to create some kind of, I don't know, visual hairstyle thing that you can, you know, obviously people aren't going to take it seriously in the sense that they already know what kind of hairstyle they want, but could you create something where you could put the person's face, superimpose the person's face into it, and then their hairstyle, then they could coiffed it, and then they could perhaps share it, like, oh, look at me, like almost like Instagram or Snapchat, where you get the little weird pictures and shit. You know, what I'm saying is you need to think of things that you're going to be able to create on top of that. But for other things also, in terms of local, is what a lot of places don't think about, how you can mesh really well in your site with what other businesses that are complementary in your area. So where's the parking? You know, have on your contact page, add a bit about parking and use road names, junctions, things like that, so that because obviously with local, you are reinforcing your locality by offering these things. You know, you could also have, depending on what street you're on, you could have a get kind of street or whatever the case would be, and you could list other businesses in a particular area. So whilst you're waiting for your car tires to be changed, there's a great coffee shop down the road. There's the optometrist where you can get your eyes tested whilst having a fresh coffee, whilst waiting for your tires to be checked. Yeah, so look, you don't have to have a blog, but you are going to need to obviously provide content on site. So you are going to need to put your thinking cap on. Because you've talked about citations, I think you talked about obviously local links. In other words, yeah, you know, think about local media, local radio. I've always found that they are pretty good, and their local media is very receptive for when anything's happening with a local business. You know, they tend to send a photographer out just for a new shop opening or a new restylized. So yeah, you know, set up a rapport with the local rag and the local magazines, and you know, keep them up to date with anything that the business is doing or has done. If you've done a charity drive, or if you've raised, you know, even if you know, it's a national thing, like, I don't know, so let's say there's a national thing raising money for something, and it's you know, still send it into the local rag. You know, this barbershop raised 50 quid for, you know, dyslexic children or whatever, thanks to their customers, and send in a picture, and you know, just the usual thing. 9 times out of 10, if they're having a bit of a slow week or whatever, they tend to print it, and local rags do always tend to have a slow news week. So, you know, send that stuff in. It's gold, and local newspapers always tend to publish your stuff, you know, within reason, obviously. So think about a newspaper for local, any local charities. If your business can actually help a local charity in any way, shape, or form, it's always pretty good for a link coming back. I tend to do, like, for local charities in my area, I tend to give them a little bit of marketing help. I pick one a year, give them a couple of hours over the year, and of course I get an attribute coming back from them. So yeah, you know, you just got to think about it. It's not just citations. You've done that. Also think on their social media. I'm assuming they have social media. They've either got, probably more than likely, have Facebook and maybe Twitter. They might, obviously there's the Google Business. Start using the new local posts on their business pages. I can't see that it's actually leading to click. It's only been around for 2 weeks now, or more, a week and a bit. Get a lot of views, the new posts. In terms of click-throughs, not really yet, but obviously people are going to still get used to that. So that's quite a powerful thing, especially for local now. Especially if your competitors in your local area aren't using it, and you're the only one that starts using it, it's you know, it's good, and it shows up in maps and search. Facebook, Twitter, you know, actually my biggest thing in terms of that is support other local initiatives also on your site. Too many businesses just push their own product on site. But if you're a local business, you live and work and in a local community. So, you know, engage socially in that local community. New restaurants just opened, you know, and if you ate there and you enjoyed it, you know, review that restaurant from your Facebook page with your business, or your Google, you know, or your you know, your business page within Google. So not, you know, so not only are you seen as leaving a review, but you're seen as, that business, your name is seen as eating locally. You know, you're supporting local, you work local. So think local, in other words.
Good one, Tim. Who's next? Nobody apparently. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, this one for Mark Spindle. It's titled Meta Keywords on Every Page. Mark said, a site I am editing has meta keywords on every page. Not really stuffed, but they are there. Is this a negative SEO signal nowadays?
Only from the point of view that whoever put them there doesn't have a very good knowledge of SEO, so that's a pretty negative thing. No, it's not a negative SEO signal from the point of view of Google, but there's no point in doing it, and there's also the downside of perhaps revealing the key phrases that the page is targeting. Yeah, that's it, I think. I I would get rid of them if I was going to do the work that the audit is going to recommend.
Yeah, just look, I've run into this a few times where the client is so you can speak to a client till you're blue in the face, and they will, but because they've read so much crap over the years, they kind of believe that, oh my God, I have to have meta keywords. If that is the case, have one or two on it, or three, just tidy it up, and then just be done with, for the sake of keeping the client, kind of appeased, because they read so much rubbish over the years. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to benefit. It's not going to be negative, but I would just tidy it up. I wouldn't want 50 of these, weird things appearing all over the place. The thing is, you're never quite sure, if Google, Google reserves the right to do stuff as and when they please, and one day they might look at it and go, no, that is just complete crap. So play it on the safe side. If the client wants, like, oh my God, I need keywords, just stick to 3 decent ones and move on from there.
So you wouldn't want to put pink furry elephants everywhere to throw the competitors?
No. And if you, no, maybe I should actually. I don't know where Jim's gone. He might be talking. I don't know. He's probably passed out or something. Going back to the previous question, actually, here's an interesting one. The new websites from Google. They absolutely, you are unable to optimize these things at all, and some of them have been, I've created some of them for 2 local little shops in the town, and literally, there's like very, very little competition. They don't even appear for their brand names. It's just yeah. So I'm going to do a little bit of experimenting, put some citations in for them, and see what it takes to rank a Google website, because at the minute, anything for the businesses.
Jim, you're muted.
You said?
Jim is still muted, and that's because I can see his mouth moving, but can't hear anything.
You can see my mouth moving, but I'm not making any noise.
It's okay, it's not making any sense. Oh no, his mouth is moving.
Ah. Well. All right, let's move on to the next. This one is from Paddy Mantaloons. Can a URL be masked/mapped? Can a URL be masked/mapped to appear to search engines that it's on a different domain? Some client desk services require you to set up access to their platform on a subdomain of their domain, or even your own subdomain. I prefer not to have Google see that visitors are leaving the main site when they navigate to the client desk.
Is this a question for search or for analytics?
Well, it is for search. He thinks that Google going to another site might harm him. I mean, I can say that yes, if you want to, you can make any site the content of any other person's site appear as content on your own site. You can use some software. It's called Cole, and it will draw in the entire site, even a dynamic site, into your own domain. It will physically display it, and might even work with the scenario that Paddy's talked about. The other thing you could do, but this would only work for the first access of the external site. You could put your site in the address bar, just using a simple redirection. But then once they click the link on the site, of course, they're going to go to the other site. But at least for one jump, you've still got them on your site as far as, and literally on your site. That's the way Google would read it. So it is all possible. I just wonder whether it's important. The thing is that if people are jumping onto your site, finding something and going somewhere, that's your purpose in life. That's your function. And for that, if people are doing that sort of thing quickly, Googlebot will reward you. I think so, anyway. What do you think? No, I won't ask anybody directly. We have viewers watching us, guys. We must give them something to listen to.
I can sing or I can tap dance. What would you like?
I'd like to know, can a URL be masked or mapped?
Well, it can, yes. Yes, I believe it can. But I don't think it's anything to worry about. I did actually intervene to say something half serious. But it's not something I'd worry about. As Rob said, there's an analytics dimension to this, and you can set analytics to track people across to an order processing site of some sort, and back again if you wish. So I'm not sure that it's a big issue from the Google point of view. You may find that you don't want it to be seen from a user point of view, though, who may end up thinking that you are a little two-bit business who has to engage some kind of SaaS for some part of your sales. It's really, are we answering the question of can it be masked or mapped, or are we going one or two steps further than that? And I think that, yeah, from Google's point of view, don't worry. From a user point of view, think about your users. Are they likely to worry about it or not?
Exactly, David. All right, let's call that an answer for Paddy Mantelins, and hope that he asks us another question soon. Let me just tweet that. Let's go to the next. This one from Gaz Underhill. He wants to know, should he no index images, post types, as they are thin content. Yes, said, evening people, I'll try my best to explain. This is the best I can. I've just done a site search, a site full colon search on my site, in other words, a search of your site with the site operator. And Google is showing that I have 1,200 pages indexed. It looks to me that I am indexing a lot of image pages, and it gives a URL which can be seen on the Dumb SEO Questions community on Google+. But he has image pages which are, well, I'm not sure if I can see that page. No, I can't. But it's a page which just displays an image. See, when I click on the edit button, I'm taken to my. Let me just scroll that back. Little bugger got away from me. When I click on the edit button, I'm taken to my media folder in WordPress. The Yoast Advanced Cogwheel is showing the following meta robots index default for this post type. Currently, it's index meta robots follow. What does that mean? It's either index or no index, followed by follow or no follow. Anyway,
my thought about this is that I noticed a plugin for WordPress a week or two ago that instead of, if you click on an image, instead of it's sending you to effectively a page with the image on, it redirects back to the page you're on. In other words, it doesn't take you to that page that really isn't, or that page that you perhaps wouldn't want the user to end up at, because it doesn't actually help the user experience. The problem with me answering in this way is that I cannot for the life of me remember what it was called. And if I do, I shall pop it into the conversation. But there is one around there that does that. And it came up when I was doing an install, when I was looking for an image-related plugin for a client website. So it's probably something quite popular if it came up on the integral plugin search within WordPress. But if that's a, you know, if people feel that that's a reasonable thing to do, SEO wise, and I suspect it is, but I'm willing to be persuaded otherwise, that would be a one way out of your problem.
okay.
I mean, if there is a reason for user to be on that page and see the image, I don't see any reason for no indexing it. You know, if someone is looking for a piece of clothing and the picture on that page is the right one for the search query, then showing that page makes sense, and having that in the search index makes sense. So the way I would approach it is, you know, does it make sense for people to land on this page? And you might argue that, you know, if there isn't, then why is that page in existence?
You've got a visitor, Rob. Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to me from what he said that these pages with an image on them are naturally generated by the site. I don't think he's trying to spam with them. You know, I mean, this sort of stuff, Googlebot's well aware of what a merchandiser must do to you know, get stuff onto his site. I think Googlebot would just safely ignore these. I wouldn't no index them because I mean there's more to search than just organic search. I mean there's image search as well, and he might well make sales from this. What you know what he's looking at, thinking it might be thin content. It could be may not be ranking very well on the organic search page, but it certainly could be ranking very well on an image search. Really, it doesn't really matter how a visitor gets to your shopping cart, as long as there's a means for them to get there. So, yeah, I wouldn't be deleting these pages. They're just naturally generated. And, yeah, I mean, if you no index them, all of a sudden they'll disappear out of the image index. Anyway, so do we feel like we've covered this one? I'm recording that as a yes, and we're on to the next already. It's Blake A-Lot talking about an aggregate review markup. He said, I was looking at a schema markup for a client's site and wanted to see if the aggregate review markup would improve the click-through ratio for some of the services they provide. Do I have to have the reviews on the site's pages I want to mark up? Well, you don't need to have them unless you don't mind, as long as you don't mind your site disappearing out of sight. Oh dear. Anybody?
Well, Tim is the expert in this, I think, among us. I think you're right. You know, if you don't have the reviews on site, then how are you getting that aggregate review figure, the score or whatever it is? You know, you can't just pluck a number from thin air. It has to refer to something. It has to be based on something, and that what it's based on must be visible and traceable and verifiable.
Go and
do something a bit dodgy and potentially spammy. I guess you could mark it up using JSON-LD rather than a form that actually marks up the content on the page. But that would definitely be rather spammy. So I would have thought that you would have definitely needed to put reviews on the page.
Yeah. All right, in the interest of brevity, we're going to call that an answer. We're going to tweet it, and we're moving on to the next. Here we are, a question from Gareth Higgins on 50,000 backlinks. One of my competitors has approximately 50,000 backlinks. After exploring some, I found a lot are redirects. Some are 302, some are page not found, i.e. 404. Is this a common black hat SEO strategy, or simply that they could have just reused content and left the page? Is there anything I should do, i.e. report them? Let me just chip in there and say this is perfectly natural and normal. You know, it might be that in one season a retailer is holding a particular product. Maybe it's those little Japanese toys what was the name of those toys, guys? The Japanese ones.
Which ones?
I can't think of it now. That's the trouble with being old. But yeah, all of a sudden, what was fashionable this year is not fashionable next year. People link to your page because you have something that's the flavor of the month right now. And then when they discover that you no longer have that item on your site, the links disappear. That's not unusual, perfectly normal. I think Gareth needs to concentrate less on what his competitors are doing and making sure that all of his technical aspects of his site make sure all of his ducks are in a row before getting down to that level of worrying what his competitors are doing. General agreement on that sentiment? All right, let's call that an answer for Gareth Higgins. And let's go to the next. This one from Chase Rayner on paginated pages with rel next and rel previous. He said some experts recommend paginated pages with rel next and previous tags and keeping them indexed. But I'm reading tests and it seems like maybe it's better to no index them. Thoughts? Well, I've had some experience with large numbers of products, and sometimes there's no other option to display them than to put them in paginated pages, 20 products at a time. You're talking 2,000 products, 20 pages of 10. No, 20 pages of 100. Anyway, you just have to put them in paginated pages. You find that Googlebot loves the first one, not so much the second, and very dubious about the third. And really, by the time you get to the end, not many pickups at all. But the point I'd try to make is that why no index them? What are you afraid of? It's genuine content. It's not thin content. It's product that you're selling. What right is Googlebot to mark you down for that? And say you've got 10 pages which only draw in 5% of your product. If you no index them, that 5% has gone from you, and a 5% gain is what we're really all striving for, just to pick up a little bit better. So why squander what you already have? My thoughts anyway. All right, my thoughts were enough in that case. Let's move on to the next. We've got 20 questions to get through tonight, and I have to be at an appointment at 1 a.m, so I'm sorry to rush these through. Blake Alott asked a question titled "The Case Search." Blake said, hey everyone, I have a client that recently made their site. I'm working on some SEO for them and noticed that if I do a case search for the site to see when Google last crawled it, it looks really broken. And he gives a link which can be seen on the Dumb SEO Questions community on Google+. He said, when I do this for other clients, the website appears normal, but for this site, it looks broken. Does anyone know if this is bad?
It's not that bad. In the cache version, the CMS, the CSS is not called in, so there is no layout. All there is to it, I think.
Thank you, Rob. Anybody else?
I would agree. I would agree. Yeah, there's contents there, isn't it? And it's readable. So, yeah, I'd retire to the beach and have an ice cream.
All right, let's tweet that and we'll go to the next. We're halfway there. Let's go. Josu Sanchez Arnelda asks a question titled Ranking Suddenly Drops. Josu said, hi to everybody again. I'm making a website, and while it was in construction, it was ranking position 30 for some keywords. However, suddenly it stopped to appear for those keywords while still indexed. In my Google Search Console, I see some peaks of visits, but I don't understand what it is. I'm attaching a picture which can be seen on the Dumb SEO Questions community on on Facebook.
Yeah, it is just not being shown that often. And if it's not shown and there are more than 1 day between it, they won't show the position, so it looks rather broken. Time. It looks like Google doesn't see it as a very at the moment.
Needs more links.
Need to buy some.
I mean, one thing that sort of is interesting is that the site was in construction. So, would you allow your under construction site to be indexed? Should you have it indexed?
No, you
I think
shouldn't.
that might be another problem. That might be another question that he should ask himself. Because if it's under construction, the implication is not production ready. It's not really going to meet the visitors' needs and wants. And as such, you'd have to ask yourself, do you want to have it indexed?
Yeah. Does anybody think that the fact that this site is under construction, it's a little bit early to be worrying about ranking?
What do you want to rank for if you're in construction?
The site, I mean, the site is being built. This is not a construction site. Anyway, let's call that an answer for Josu, and we'll go to the next. This one from Jacob Punton. Where are you, Jacob? You should be here. Anyway, Jacob asked another question about local citations. It seems his workload recently is super citation orientated. He said, okay, so I set up 200 citations the other day for a local business. Since then, I've changed the target page permalink to something else. Obviously added a 301 from the old URL to the new one. But what happens to the links that are pointing toward the old URL in the listings? Will it still pass the same amount of value and consistency, or will it not because of the 301? I'm just wondering, as I'm not going to be going back through those 200 citations until next week. I just wanted to see if it's an urgent matter to change those URLs on the 200 listings. Cheers. Why don't we all join hands and try and make contact with the living?
You're doing your Ronnie Scott impression again, aren't you? I know. Tim Capper has just joined his video call. I thought he was about to say something. He's not about to say something. Is he about to say something? No. I'm just worrying about 200 citations for a local business. Where's he getting them all from? What are they? What are they?
Are they relevant?
I'm sorry?
Are they relevant?
Yes, exactly. There will be some dilution if these were normal links, if they were to go through 301, wouldn't they? I don't see any reason why that wouldn't happen here too. I think I would like to see some more content on this site rather than all these hundreds of perhaps not too wonderful citations. I think maybe Jacob needs to be a bit wider with his thinking. I know this isn't a direct answer to the question, but I wonder whether Jacob is just doing one trick for his local SEO clients. And I think I personally, I don't, you know, whatever I'm doing, I don't just do one thing. I think, you know, in all SEO, there's not a single silver bullet. And what one does for one's client should be across a whole range of activities. Google generally likes to see that. And it also means that if you've chosen the wrong thing, it's you've got more chance of winning. If you've chosen the wrong thing and you've got, then you're not going to win. If you do a spread of things, you've got more chance of doing something that will work, is what I'm trying to say very badly. So personally, I wouldn't worry too much about going in and setting them all up again. I would perhaps look at those that I was honestly saying to myself, these are of good quality and they are going to help my client. I suspect I would leave the rest and I would think of some other things to do to help their local presence.
Thank you, David. Anybody else? All right, let's move on to the next. This one from Eunice Bermeen. Eunice said, do I have to submit a subdomain to Search Console? Or will it be indexed through the main domain? Nope. You'd think, given that this is a problem that everybody has to deal with, you would think that Google could write a simple script that when you put in the root domain, all of the domains required, which would be the www, and in the case of HTTP or HTTPS, you've got to load both the www HTTP and the www.https. So in reality, for every root domain, you're probably loading another 7 domains. Am I wrong or right? Maybe I'm wrong. How many is it? If you cover both the SSL distinction and also the root domain and www. Anyway, you have to put them all in and pick the one that you really, well, first of all, with SSL, you'll pick the one that you want by using force redirect. So redirect anything on the page which is which should be going to SSL. You force that to happen. Any requests for non-SSL, you redirect to the HTTPS version of your site. But you must load both the root domain and www and tell Google via the Google Search Console which one is your preference. Some people like www, and other people like the root domain. I remember when Tim Capper bought sex.com, and hello, Richard Hearn. We've missed you, mate.
A long time no see.
Yeah. Are you in Thailand or?
No, I'm in Ireland. I'm in the middle of Ireland. I won't call it what some people call it, but I'm in Ireland. So yeah. How are we all?
We are well. We're feeling really well.
Let me not disrupt everything. You keep going, yeah.
No, well, you're not disrupting anything. And Tim, we're just trying to wake Tim up at the moment. He's been on the phone for a while. So how's business, mate? Killing it?
Everything is good. A little bit different. Don't work too much these days. About half as much as I used to, but yeah, I work on some interesting things these days. So.
Okay. All right. And Red Cardinal, you're still there at Red Cardinal?
Yeah, no, I'm still there, but I'm sort of the SEO I work on these days is it's quite technical. I do quite a lot of the JavaScript stuff, or I've sort of moved in that direction by accident more than anything else. So, but yeah, the SEO is still interesting. Google is still interesting.
Yeah. All right, we've got 20 questions tonight. You've probably forgotten the URL. I'll give you that. Or Masataki, could you give Richard the URL of our run list? And we're up to question 12. All right, let me just tweet that and we'll move on to the next. This is a question from Kath Dawson Courtney. It's titled, "My site isn't using H1s at all." Kath goes on to ask, if a site isn't using H1s at all and is using other headers in an odd way, for example, H2s all say contact brand name, how hard would you push to change it? Given that I expect some pushback on how important it is, as there will be design work needed, minimal though, I'd imagine.
I'd push fairly hard to get it sorted out. It's not going to be that difficult. It's to make those changes, and I think that, as I said, I hope it wasn't in relation to this this question, but I said recently, I think this is one of the areas where there's a fairly direct a direct similarity between Google and the human reader. You know, we see headlines, they're big, we know they're important. Those are called H1s. H2s, they're less important, but you know, they're that little bit smaller. So Google and people see it the same way. This is a very nice bit of where UX, as far as Google's concerned, actually makes a lot of sense for people. And I think that if you're going to keep telling people that the second most important thing on this page is contact brand name, well, it might be, but what the hell difference is this page with contact brand name fairly important about it as against to that page with contact brand name? I really wouldn't want to see that sort of muddle going through a site I was working on. Some people will argue that H tags are not as important as they used to be. I think with UX becoming more and more important, in fact, there's something you should get right. And as I say, there'll be a bit of pushback, sure, but you've got to do it once, and then it'll be right across the whole site, hopefully. Certainly if it's got some sort of CMS involved. So I'm all for changing them.
I'm going to give a little bit of a contrarian view. It's funny about Google sees things like humans, and I've long since thought that, like, since Google has gone to render-based indexing, that the code that underlies your page is far less important than what actually appears on the screen. So for me, if I was in this position, I'd probably say to someone, if there's a big overhead to changing this, I wouldn't bother. I don't think it's going to have any impact, because Google will render the page, and then they'll take from that render what is the biggest text on the page. That's probably the headline. What's in the body area? I don't think you're going to see any significant difference changing a headline from a H2 to H1. I don't think it's going to have any impact on your ranking. That's just my view. I think at the margins it might have slight variation, but if there's pushback from making the change, I think your time would be wiser spent in other places, probably. What do you think, Jim, now that you're having a bite?
I'm having a bite of an apple. It's hard to say. I mean, expecting pushback from the client. I mean, I'm of the view that clients should be made to send their checks and stay away, because they cause so much trouble. Clients, I think websites could be so much better if there were no clients involved, other than the ones that just send their checks, and that's well, I suppose now it's easy for me to say that because I don't try as hard as I used to, but they're the best clients. They're the ones that just send their checks and leave it in your hands. And I mean, I'm digressing, but what a shame it is that there's a simple thing that the SEO expects pushback from the client when they're trying to help them.
I can understand, though. Big companies also.
Sorry, carry on.
No, you go.
I just say that it happens to all of us. I think it's a very rare client who says, "Get on with it," and sends a checkout, or even one of these newfangled digital money transfer doodles that they can do on their computer thing now. But yeah, I agree. I agree with Richard. On the point that if it's going to be a lot of work, then don't do it. But I like. I think that as this is a one-hit activity, it's not going to keep on eating up budget month after month. I think it's worth doing, but that's there's always a proviso that this is not going to take 6 months to fix once.
You have to choose your battles. When you're working with clients and they have development teams that are under-resourced and they're probably worked out the door day in, day out, you have to pick your battles. And like I said, I think that the impact you're going to have from doing this is probably going to be very limited. And that's a problem, because if you push to make a change and they don't see any upside from it, well, then they start to question whether you are giving valid advice. So, it's important that people look to see what are the priorities. You build a list of changes you want to make for SEO, and then you prioritize those based on what's the overhead and actually implementing them and what's going to be the return. So like for this one, I just leave it. Go and look for something that's going to have a bigger impact than changing H2s to H1s.
Yeah, actually, there's a lot of sense there. All right, let's call that an answer for Kath Dawson Courtney. We'll tweet that and roll on to the next, up to number 14 on our run list. That's probably I told Dan not to have a 13. Anyway, question 14, I don't want my client to pay me for nothing. That's my dream. Anyway, he said, first off, I'm new at doing SEO freelance. I'm still learning a lot. So I have a client who is now ranking pretty well for their keywords. Third, organic on the first page. What else can I do to improve this? Or what can I do to keep the client paying? I've done most of the on-page SEO. I'm working on better backlinks, and Google reviews are coming. I'm not real sure on how to retain this client. I want to make sure that I'm working for it. I don't just want to have them pay me for nothing. Any and all feedback is greatly appreciated. From Ryan Kellum.
I think the first thing that anyone who's new to SEO has to realize is that moving up from lower positions to middle of the page isn't that difficult, but moving up from position 3 to 2 or 2 to 1 is exponentially more difficult. So, he should just aim on getting them up to number 1.
Well, I'm not sure if Ryan is asking a question or boasting.
No, getting to number 3. He's got to remember, he gets up to number 1, he could get 3 times the traffic. That could be 3 times the revenue. Like, what's it worth to the client? That's what you got to think of.
And what
I work with clients who spend $100 a click, pay per click.
Yeah, that's so true.
And how many key phrases are there? There's surely not just 1 or 5 key phrases that will deliver business, shall we say, to your client. There are a whole lot of others. What about all the long tail variations? And what about just the sheer maintenance of keeping yourself at 3rd organic? It's not you've got there, you stick the flag in the top of the mountain, and no one's going to come along and take it away and put theirs in. It's a continually changing landscape. You may think, great, I'm at 3rd now. What if Google's latest tweak puts you down to 11 or 12? Or what happens if the guys at 4, 5, and 6 decide to do a bit of SEO because they've noticed they've slipped down a bit? You've got ongoing work to maintain the client at where he is, or where they are, or where she is, or whatever.
Yeah.
He should probably also go and talk to his client, because if his client is good, they'll respect the fact that he's actually coming to them with this problem, and they should work out whether they have a strategy and where they want to be and what's required to get there, and then decide, is it worthwhile him continuing on, or he looks for a new client. Maybe if he's worried about taking money from someone he's not doing a lot, well, maybe say this to the client, let them choose if they want to pay him more, and if they don't, go and look for a new client. But it sounds to me like there's probably lots of space to do more, create content, focus on featured snippets, lots of things to do.
Yeah. All right, let me tweak that and we'll roll on to the next. We're up to number 15 on our run list. This one from Gareth Higgins. He said, I think I got penalized. So I was ranking in the first page and checked to test backlinks and tried to add a few canonical links to my website. But I think I got penalized and I'm now on the second page. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong to get penalized. Do you have any suggestions? Let me just add before I go on that I spoke to Gareth on this one. This is a news site, and possibly just because it's brand new, there's bound to be a lot of variation.
I think, yeah, I don't think it was a penalty, but I would certainly look. I mean, you added canonicals. Well, from where? Canonical indicates that you were adding that from your own site. Have you created some weird redirection loop on pages? Is it your pages? You know, have you created some weird misunderstanding for Googlebot on your site that has lent it to look at pages in another light that you've canonicalized one page to another page? Googlebot's going, well, I wanted to rank this one I was, but now you're telling me it's this one. And okay, so I'll respect your decision, but this is not really relevant anymore, and now it's going, this is where I feel it deserves. So, I mean, unless you can clarify that slightly on where you place these canonicals, we could probably give you a better idea.
All right, let's, is there anybody else? All right, let's move on to the next. This one from Mark Spindle. Is it dangerous for my ranking if I rewrite the homepage? Mark said, I have entirely rewritten the homepage for a site. Is it okay to simply replace it? The content is really the same, but it has been expanded and written more clearly. Is this dangerous for my rankings? The site isn't ranking very highly, but I don't want to do anything to hurt it.
It's a bit of a shame that he's worried about this, to be honest. I think you should just go for it. If you think he's got a better page, just go for it, publish it. You can't be worried about this type of thing, otherwise you'll do nothing. Publish it, you can always go back. Might take a little longer, but if you're improving your site, you should never really worry, I think, about publishing stuff.
Yeah, I agree. Anybody else? My mother told me not to talk with a mouthful. Anyway, let's move on with the next. This one from Patty Mantaloons on flushing the Google cache. Oh yeah, this one was about a staging server that went online without a robot's text. He said, so a developer got a few dozen pages on a staging server indexed. They're still in Google's, they're still in Google's index and as cached pages since January. What's the best way to proceed? One, verify a Google Search Console account and remove the URLs. edit all pages have been off of the staging server since January. It's now June, so they've been off since 6 months.
I'd ask the dev to set up redirects and submit a sitemap to Google with those old URLs and let Google crawl the old URLs again and see the redirects. And that's all I would. That's what I would do. I wouldn't remove them.
Yeah, that's right, because once they're removed, Googlebot's got no way of finding out what your true intentions were.
Well, we don't know what's on those. Like, they could have been canonicalized somewhere else. It's unlikely, but you never know. And removing them could actually affect other pages. So just redirect.
Mm-hmm.
We also don't know whether the page is 404 or what they do. You could put the pages up with a 410 and see if that takes them out more quickly.
Yeah. All right, let's call that an answer for question 17. And regards to Paddy Mantolins, is it one from Megan Muoz? I can't see the third letter here, but I'm just guessing. Megan, I'm sorry if I've mispronounced your name. Megan asks, does anyone know what a regex domain is and what purpose it serves?
I think that there's a mix up there that, like, what's happening there is that she's probably seen regex, which is regular expression, and domain somewhere, and they have no relationship, I don't think.
Well, yeah, I mean, quite often people adding in a text box which takes an email address. They will regex the data that comes in to make sure it's a valid domain.
Yeah.
And so that's probably what she's thinking of. But it's a programming tool. It's not anything to do with nothing that needs to be optimized. All right, let's call it an answer for Megan, and we'll tweet it. Neil Cheeseman, he said he can't see this in Google's terms of service. Is it okay for a link to be posted in a comment on an article /page/URL that has content entirely relevant to the link content? When does it become not acceptable? Overuse, obviously not related content, would I assume to be spamming? I don't know what he means there, but I'm not sure what Neil means all over. Did you guys pick that up? Is it okay for a link to be posted in a comment on an article /page/URL that has content entirely relevant to the link content? Well, if you're running a phishing site and it was a phishing forum, it's not okay for a link to be posted in the comments of the forum. I mean, in China, they've got whole streets full of 7-story buildings and university graduates sitting there with computer screens generating this forum crap, this fluff that they put onto forums and so on, which include a link, and they call that link building. So that part of it.
Just on a tangent, here's a funny one for you, right? Recently in Thailand, there were 3 Chinese fellas who were arrested. The police thought they were running some sort of stock scam, but it turned out that they had basically a click farm set up. They had 300,000 pre-registered SIM cards. They had a couple of thousand cell phones, and it was a click farm for some of the Chinese social media sites to increase the likes on products that people were buying. So that'll give you an idea of some of the lengths that people go to.
Yeah. 300,000 SIM cards.
300,000. But the question really has to be with this is, why does he want to post the link? And is he only doing this for SEO value? And he may not find that he's getting a lot of value out of these links. You know, they basically say if you're doing stuff to spam them, well, it's against their terms of service. Not that they're going to do anything about it, but he may get more value using his time elsewhere, would be the best way to put it.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody else want to add to that? All right, so here we go. That's number 19 gone, of a total of 20. This one from Paddy Mantelins on forcing new windows for external URLs using target blank. What are your thoughts on forcing new windows for external URLs using target blank? HTML5 has brought this back, but has usability. And secondarily, is a click-through to an external link in a new window considered an exit, just as if it had loaded in _self. I don't know what _self is. I must be getting old.
It's the target value. It's the value of the target property you put in a href. If you put in self, that's the default. It basically means open the link in this window.
Oh yes, of course. Yeah.
It's the default value. That's why you don't know, right? You don't see it too often because it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah.
I have to admit, I've always wondered whether the target property could be a signal that is used to show that a link has marginally less value than a link that opens in self. So a link that opens in a new window means that the site doesn't want you to leave them. Could it be used? Now, I don't see any great value in it, but I've always wondered whether it could be a very, very marginal signal for links.
Yeah, well, I mean, it seems to me that target, I mean, in other words, forcing a new window open, leaving your site still sitting there in a tab,
yeah,
is always got to be a plus.
I hate it, to be honest. I hate to when I click on a link and I go to a site and it spawns a new window or a new tab. There's just something about it that I dislike. You know, I've clicked a link to go somewhere else. I don't need, now in some cases it makes sense depending on the site, but you get sites that are editorial and they do it, and I think it's for usability, I think it's a horrible, you know, it's a horrible experience.
Yeah, and how do they work in WebView and things like that?
They open in the same window. WebView, I think, only has a single window, so it doesn't have that property. There won't be a target. It'll just ignore the property, I think.
Yeah. If you have a sort of browser app, then it will open a new window, I think. But if it's a web view, then it's the same window, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't think it's easy to debug WebView that I know of. I'm not sure.
All right. Let me tweet that. And
I like your tweet feature. Very clever.
You do like that?
I've been away a long time, so like that wasn't around, but I saw, this is how I picked up, I was on Twitter and I saw this big stream of questions, and I wasn't quite sure whether they were historic or whether they were live, and hence me jumping in now and just, yeah, well, it was a good thing, I think.
But you're the first person that's read one, I think. All right, let's try for the next. I think we're at the end. Yes, we're at the thank you for watching stage, and we thank you for your interest. Your interest in what we do makes what we do worthwhile. We'll be back at the same time next week to do this all again. But for now, it's good night, and thank you very much.